Abbott v. Biden. That's our second topic. So everybody's been following this drama. I'll try to summarize it here. So the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court 5-4, rules that the federal government could come in and cut down some razor wire that the Texas government had put up to stop illegal immigrants from crossing the Texas-Mexico border. After the ruling, Abbott pens this super strongly worded letter, which when I was reading it, I was like, this is the kind of stuff you look back 100 years from now and like, that was the start of something crazy. But this really strongly worded letter basically saying Biden's abdicated his responsibility under the Constitution to, protect the border and prevent an invasion of Texas, and cites, Articles 4 and 10 of the Constitution. And then since then, and so he's basically taking over the securing the border. And then since then, the other 25 Republican governors in the country have said they support Governor Abbott. So is this the start, or should I say the next step towards civil war, or is it a nothing burger?
It's interesting. I just remembered Abbott is issuing these statements from India. I don't know. I think it's an escalation in the fight back and forth over the border, but I do think it's going to amount to not much. I'm not. So I mean, it's a Republican southern state dueling with the Democratic-led federal government. So I'm not. Gonna be, if it was like a Republican state versus like a Republican president or something, maybe. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to amount to much. I mean, I feel like we're going to get some clashes on the border now with determining kind of like how much Texas is going to push and what the federal government wants. And I know now some of the federal legislators want to take control over the state's National Guard and like all these other things. But then also I heard that Trump came out yesterday telling people don't do anything until like this election's over. And so I think there's so many dueling narratives about the border and about what's actually going to happen. I just don't see much coming of it. And then, it's also funny though, because you've got these people, Mike Johnson and others, who go down there with their vests and they go take the walk and they get on the pontoon boat and they do the whole thing. But then they go back and they don't do much other than really statements. And so, it's one thing to call it the president, which you should, but it's also all of the federal legislators who just talk about this issue and use it for campaign contributions rather than actually addressing it. So I think it's all of DC's fault, and I just don't see anything happening other than kind of rhetoric escalation.
Let me show you guys what's fucking annoying about this. So here's Tucker Carlson. We all respect Tucker Carlson to one degree or another. And in case you're listening to this, I'll read it for you. It's a Tucker Carlson tweet. I don't have a good Tucker Carlson impression. Maybe Michael does. He says, so it's unanimous. Everyone in power, from the White House to the hedge fund managers to the Supreme Court of the United States, has decided to destroy the country by allowing it to be invaded. That leaves the population to defend itself. Where are the men of Texas? Why aren't they protecting their states and the nation? Well, great fucking question, Tucker Carlson. Where the fuck are you?
Well,
why aren't you down here on the border protecting the nation? You fucking piece of shit. And after this whole thing happened, I was listening to the radio the next morning, a bunch of yahoos calling in saying, woohoo, Greg Abbott, he's the best. Oh yeah, we're gonna fight the federal government if they come down here. Woo! Fucking why? Why do people like, all right, go fight then. Go do it. Go be the first one to shoot the fucking gun. Why are people so excited? Like, why are they encouraging this shit? Right? Yeah, I want Greg Abbott to stand up for it too and just say, sorry, we're not gonna abide by this. We're gonna do it. But all this call for like it's gonna be a civil war, like those are people dying. Those are people like your fellow countrymen dying. And it's not gonna be pretty, it's not gonna be fun, it's gonna fuck everything up. Like you want to pretend like you're this, like you're Tucker Carlson, and you're gonna encourage men to go die while you sit up in your fucking Nantucket cabin, sitting, sidling up to this fucking crazy table on your new podcast, sitting really fucking close like this when you're talking to people, and having fun conversations, getting paid millions and millions of dollars, and people worshiping you and hoping that you're going to be the VP pick, and so that you can say, hey, go fucking shoot people, go have a war. It's fucking nuts.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. And I was going to say that. I'm like, it's easy to tweet that while you're sitting in Old Greenwich, Connecticut, and telling everybody who you go and cosplay being one of, that they should go and kill people on the border and they should go fight. But yet you're all it amounts to you is a tweet. All it for you, it's another video where you're going to get shares and retweets, and then you're stipend from X because you got all these shares and retweets. Whereas you're actually telling people, some of whom are like wild enough to do so, to go pick up arms and go to the southern border and fight. And, if that's the case, if you genuinely believe it, then go lead the charge. Like, come on, like go lead the charge. Please do. Take off the vest.
Yeah, take off your vest, put down your fucking fishing pole, get in your private jet, fly down here with all your fucking guns that we know that you have, and start shooting, bitch.
And the crazy part is, because of how he is and who he is and the following he has built, if he showed up there, he could get thousands of people to show up there right with him. So why don't you go lead the charge and show us how it's done?
Come on.
Where are the men of Texas? Like, where are the men of Texas? Where are the men of Texas not going to start a civil war? Like, what do you mean? Like, that is such a crazy thing in my mind.
Podcasts, Tucker Carlson.
Like, it's such a crazy thing. Like, I get it because yes, there are issues at the border, but to sit there and say, go pick up arms and fight as if like if I went and got my gun right now, went down to the southern border, I'd probably get shot by DPS before I even, before like anything. So you're telling me to go down there? Like, it's just crazy. It is crazy. And this is the problem with some of the rhetoric today. People are all too willing to say anything when don't even care about the repercussions and don't care about the actual fallout of what they say. And it's all for retweets and shares and subscribes and all that. If he genuinely believed that, he should go down there and he should take up arms and lead the charge.
Wow. You guys are fired up. Most people that I listen to, not to skate the Tucker Carlson criticism, because I'm a Tucker Carlson fan. I agree with everything you guys just said. He's not going to do that. But most people that I listen to that talk about civil war more say it's inevitable. Not that they want it, but the trajectory of the country and the inability for the sides to come together and the states to come together toward a common goal is just leading us down in a path towards what ends at civil war. And we all see the rhetoric post-Trump has gotten very elevated, and it's not cooling down. Like, we literally hate people. I don't. But a lot of people on the right in particular view people on the left as the enemy, and they hate them. Mm-hmm. And that it could be a long road to civil war, and this could be a step towards that. But I get that argument. We have set ourselves on a path that only leads to one end. I don't think we should go to the border. There is a fucking crisis at the border. It's bad. A border is not an issue that I have historically been super fired up about, but it's like impossible to ignore now.
Yeah.
And but I'm not going to pick up arms and go, who am I going to go fight with? I'm
not gonna
be fighting with immigrants. That's not a civil war. That's me fighting with immigrants, and I'm not interested in doing that. But something has to be done to correct the path. And I don't know that there's nothing in my mind that could be done at this point to do so. So the people who are saying civil war is coming, I'm like, that's where this naturally leads.
I don't disagree that we're headed down that path. I say it's inevitable. I don't know, but I don't disagree that with how divided things are and continue to get, that we're heading towards some sort of conflict like that, especially when people keep putting out that heated rhetoric, and when people hate each other simply for disagreeing with them on politics, which is so stupid. But it doesn't even seem like that's what he's calling for, right? Like, he's calling for you to go to the border and shoot the immigrants that are coming across the border. Like, that's what
I think he's talking about shooting feds. I think he's talking about standing up against the federal government and not allowing them to stop the state of Texas.
I mean, both of those are probably like equally as crazy. Like,
fighting the federal government is a step wilder, a step higher in wildness than fighting immigrants. Immigrants will probably just turn around unless there's cartel with them, in which case the cartel may fire back, but probably not, because then the federal government might have to step in and fight the cartel. But, the immigrants are going to say, oh shit, we got a bunch of crazy Americans shooting guns at us. We don't need to swim today. It's fine. We're good. We don't need to cross that bridge. But fighting the federal government, like, that's, That's fucked. And I get it. I'm 100%. I understand the logic. I understand even the desire that some people have to just get it over with and have that civil war. I get it. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I can understand, and I can have that thought in my mind and understand the logic and emotion behind it.
So
Right.
like, but what is the purpose? We're fighting a civil war because the federal government won't stop border crossings. That's what the civil war would be fought over.
I mean, that would.
I mean, yeah, there are other things, obviously, but I'm like, in this context, it seems like that's what they're saying, is that because the federal government is refusing to do their job, we should then fight them. Like that seems to be what they're saying.
The border crisis goes much further than just people crossing the border. There is a ton of cartel activity. There's massive amounts of drugs and human trafficking.
No, I hear you. What I'm saying is that what's stemming from that is the federal government not doing their job of securing the border. And so essentially what they're saying is we should fight a civil war over the federal government not doing their job of securing the border.
Well, securing the yes, but it's the way that you're phrasing it, I think maybe oversimplifies the issue, because it's not just like people are mad because people are coming across the border. Yes, that is true, but they're mad because they're the consequences of that, right?
Right.
From the fentanyl to the loss of culture to the loss of feeling of you have an actual country, like all sorts of things.
Sure. Yes.
Right, and it's not just like, oh, you let somebody cross the border, fuck you, right? You let 10 million cross the border in 3 years. Like, we have a right to secure our country. You're using our resources that were forced to pay you at the threat of violence, at the end of a gun. We have to pay you this shit. And then you turn around and you don't help us, but you help these people. That pisses people off, right?
Yes.
But
it pisses me off, but I'm not going to say, hey, Michael Searle, why the fuck? You're a fucking Texan. You're a man. Why aren't you down at the border shooting fucking feds, bitch?
I don't have a death wish, and I got a family to worry about. But the bigger, I mean, I would say the reason to fight a civil war goes actually back to our first segment. Our elected officials are being bought off to do things that are in the negative, or not in the best interest. They're actually detrimental to us and our country. That's the reason you fight a civil war, not because there's a border issue, but because the whole thing has been corrupted. And we just got evidence of that with the Kerry Lake audio.
Right. And so what I'm saying is like, when we're talking about the civil war at the border, if we found out that the federal legislators who are stopping legislation that would stop border crossings were funded by the cartel or by Mexico or something, like, that's okay. I would see like a cause for civil war in that instance. Like, okay, you're funded by a foreign foreign entity, and you're allowing this issue to happen here because of that. I don't know. I just think my frustration is all the people talking about fighting civil wars do so on Twitter, on their podcasts, on TV, whatever. None of them are the ones who are taking up arms. Like, instead of tweeting about it, just go do it. Like, if that's the case, go down there and do it. And that applies to people in Texas here too, all saying the same thing. Go down there and do it. Go.
But they're not bought by the cartels. They're bought they're bought by the Kochs. And they've been bought for the last three or four decades. And they haven't been doing anything on the border for 40 years because American business, which has been a big lobby, wants cheap labor. That's the reality. And they got their hooks in. Sorry for calling out the Kochs. The Kochs do a lot of good work on criminal justice reform and war and all that stuff. But the reality is, like, they've got on this border thing, they've got their hooks in both parties. And both parties just fight over it and don't fucking do anything because it serves the elite interest to have cheap labor, and it reduces the wages of American workers. And now they're all pissed off about the border, talking about civil war. So is it the Mexicans and the cartels who are at fault here, or is it our ruling class?
It's our ruling class. I was just saying, though, that if that were to have come out, I would be like, okay, I understand why you want to fight a civil war because they're being funded by Mexico. But no, it's the ruling class. I get it. I'm on the same page with you.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the cartels are funding some of our politicians. That sounds pretty logical and likely. And let me be very clear. I think that there are certainly times for civil war. I don't think the time is now. I hope that time never comes. I don't want that to happen. It's not something I desire. I look forward to, but There are times when war is necessary, for sure, absolutely. I just don't. And if it happens, I don't know what I'm going to do. And I don't know what the circumstances are. I don't know what I'm going to do. Am I just going to automatically, hop in my fucking Hyundai Santa Fe and drive down to the border with my 6.5 Creedmoor and start shooting people?
What Tucker wants you to do.
Tucker wants me to do that. Unfortunately for Tucker, I have 3 children, right? And I definitely don't want them to get mixed up in all this shit, right? If I leave and then, I get painted as, on the side of the rebels, right? Are they going to come after my family? Are they going to come after my kids? My kids didn't ask for that, right? What is the what is the goal, or what is the goal of the Civil War, Tucker Carlson, that you want men of Texas to go fight and die for? Is it for Texas to secede and be by itself? Is it for the balkanization of the United States is into many other, I don't know, 3 different countries? Who knows? What the fuck do you want, Tucker Carlson?
He doesn't know. He just wants retweets and shares.
Anyhow, that's how I feel about it.
Whoa, we're even more fired up than usual. But let's move on to we'll do this one briefly. So yesterday, Brad did a recording with